Hello everyone, welcome to Comprehending Jane Austen. This is the ninth paragraph of chapter 1 of Mansfield Park. Please consider subscribing to our channel and like the video. Please leave a comment on the comment section and share the video as this helps us creators a lot. Now in this paragraph we see that except the attack on Nanny's cousin, Sir Thomas no longer made any objection. Now, in the previous paragraph, we had seen that the Mrs. Norris had suggested that they would employ the Nanny's cousin in bringing Mrs. Price's daughter to Mansfield Park. Now, Thomas objected to this idea, and this was his only objection, and a more respectable means of bringing the daughter to Mansfield Park was arranged. Although it was more respectable, it was less economical, and it was less economical in the sense that it costed less money. And here we have a term rendezvous. Rendezvous, what does rendezvous mean? Rendezvous means a meeting at an agreed time and place. So, a more respectable means of bringing the child to the family was arranged. Although it was more respectable, it was less economical. Everything was considered and settled, and the pleasures of so benevolent a scheme were already enjoyed. Now everything was settled, and uh, Sir Thomas Bertram and his family enjoyed the fact that they were extending a help to Mrs. Price. So the pleasures of so benevolent a scheme were already enjoyed. The divisions of gratifying sensations ought not in strict justice to have been equal. Now the sense of gratification that Sir Thomas felt and the sense of gratification that Mrs. Norris felt was not equal. Why, we shall see. For Sir Thomas was fully resolved to be the real and consistent patron of the selected child. Now Sir Thomas, he was fully resolved. He resolved that he would be the real and consistent benefactor of this child, and Mrs. Norris had not the least intention of being at any expense whatever in her maintenance. Now Mrs. Norris, she did not have any intention of spending a dime in the maintenance of the child that they were bringing. As far as walking, talking, and contriving reached, she was thoroughly benevolent, and nobody knew better how to dictate liberality to others. Now Mrs. Norris was only good at talking and making plans, but when it came to execution of the plans, she would take a step back. As she would and nobody knew better how to dictate liberality to others. Now she would dictate to others, she would mention to others how money should be spent, but when it came to herself, she would not spend any money. But her love of money was equal to her love of directing. So her love of money was equal to her love of preaching. And she knew quite as well how to save her own as to spend that of her friends. Now Mrs. Norris, she was a person who knew how to tell others to spend money. She knew she knew how to spend money of her friends, but she would save her own. Having married on a narrower income than she had been used to look forward to, she had from the first fancied a very strict line of economy necessary, and what was begun as a matter of prudence soon grew into a matter of choice. Now Mrs. Norris, she was used to look, she was used to look forward to a greater income. That is, she was the man that she got married to was not as wealthy as the family in which she was used to grow up. So, because her husband was not that well off, she spent money very frugally. She would not spend a dime extra unless absolutely necessary. And what was begun as a matter of prudence soon grew into a matter of choice. Mrs. Norris and her family, they had no other choice but to spend money frugally, uh, as an object of that needful solicitude where there were no children to supply. Now, since Mrs. Norris did not have any children, uh, she she her income was compounded year by year. That is, her yearly income uh, grew because she had no children. Had there been a family to provide for, Mrs. Norris might never have saved her money, but having no care of that kind, there was nothing to impede her frugality. Now, since Mrs. Norris was a childless person, she she did not have the care of spending money for her children, and there was nothing to impede her frugality. Now, or lessen the comfort of making a yearly addition to an income which they had never lived up to, and their income got uh, uh, added by each passing year. Under this infatuating principle, counteracted by no affection for her sister, it was impossible for her to aim at more than credit of projecting and arranging so expensive a charity. Now, Mrs. Norris, she did not have any real affection for her sister. Now, she was only good at talking and making plans, but when it came to execution of the plans, when it came to spending money for the child that they were bringing, she would take a back step. Though perhaps she might so little know herself as to walk home to the parsonage after this conversation in the happy belief of being the most liberal-minded sister and aunt in the world. So she had this idea in his mind that she is the more liberal aunt and sister in the world because she was in charge of making plans to bring the sister of her poverty-stricken sis- the daughter of her poverty stricken sister to Mansfield Park. Thank you.